no matter what argument we may be having, no matter what disagreement we're talking about.
For decades, they were the gold standard of daytime devotion, America's televised power couple. But now, 50 years later, Dr. Phil finally breaks his silence. Did he really divorce Robin McGraw? The answer isn't what fans expected. It's not about infidelity, fame, or fading love. It's something far more surprising. From a forgotten first wife to a controversial ICE raid that sparked nationwide outrage, the clues have been there all along. This isn't just about a marriage. It's about legacy, transformation, and a line that was quietly crossed. Stay tuned as we peel back the polished image and uncover the reason he walked away after a lifetime of appearing inseparable. Dr. Phil's first marriage. Before Dr. Phil McGraw became a household name and television personality, he experienced a formative relationship that would remain largely in the background of his public life. In 1970, at the age of 20, Phil married Debbie Higgins, his high school sweetheart. At the time, he was still finding his path in life, far removed from the spotlight of national television. Their marriage took place in Kansas, where both had grown up, and reflected the eagerness and idealism of young love. The union, however, was short-lived. By 1973, the couple had divorced, and the relationship faded into near obscurity, overshadowed by Phil's later career and high-profile second marriage to Robin McGraw. Years later, Debbie Higgins would shed some light on their brief time together. In interviews given after Dr. Phil rose to fame, she described their marriage as difficult and controlling. According to Debbie, Phil was highly opinionated even at a young age and imposed rigid expectations on her behavior and appearance. She claimed he restricted her from participating in activities like working outside the home or lifting weights, which she said she enjoyed. These claims painted a stark contrast to the public persona Phil would later adopt as an advocate for personal growth, healthy relationships, and accountability. Despite these allegations, Dr. Phil has never directly addressed them in detail, maintaining a largely respectful silence about his first marriage. The significance of the early tie was not only in the relationship content, but also in the timing. Debbie and Phil married long before Phil had earned his doctorate in clinical psychology, long before Phil became a regular guest on Oprah Winfrey's show in the 1990s. And certainly before he hosted his talk show in 2002. At the time of their separation, Phil was just beginning his education and career. This period of his life is briefly referenced in official biographies, but the facts have purposely remained obscure for the sake of privacy or to avoid embarrassing Phil, considering the awkwardness of these moments. The marriage to Debbie Higgins, while seldom discussed, remains a landmark in Dr. Phil's personal history. It was one he did not stay in for long, but nonetheless probably had an effect on his developing ideas on marriage, conflict, and communication. For good or ill, this experience may have colored his later thoughts on working with couples. It stands in quiet testimony to the fact that even the public faces with polished brands have complex human beginnings from which they develop. What came next wasn't just a new relationship, it was the beginning of a partnership that would redefine both his career and public identity. Meeting Robin. Dr. Phil McGraw's life took a pivotal turn in the mid-1970s when he met Robin Jo Jameson, the woman who would become his lifelong partner. At the time, Phil was still in the early stages of developing his career in psychology, and Robin, who had a background in education, quickly became a vital source of encouragement and emotional support. Their relationship blossomed into marriage in 1976, just a few years after his divorce from his first wife. Unlike his previous relationship, Phil's partnership with Robin would be long-lasting and deeply intertwined with both his personal and professional journey. Their early years together were relatively quiet, focused on raising a family and building a future rooted in mutual respect and ambition. The couple went on to have two sons, Jay and Jordan, who would later follow creative and public-facing career paths of their own. Jay McGraw became a television producer and author, frequently working behind the scenes on Dr. Phil and other media projects. Jordan McGraw pursued a music career, eventually gaining recognition as a singer and guitarist.
I'll fix you up before you leave, 'cause I wanna...
While Dr. Phil's own rise to fame was still on the horizon in those years, Robin played a foundational role in maintaining stability at home and helping shape a family life grounded in discipline, faith, and ambition. Their sons often credit both parents for providing a strong and supportive upbringing, even as public attention intensified in later years. Robin's influence reached far beyond the domestic arena. As Dr. Phil transitioned from private practice to national recognition, she was his steadfast confidant and partner. Indeed, this transitioned into a thriving career. Robin was with Dr. Phil through his breakthrough appearances on The Oprah Winfrey Show in the late 1990s, as well as in the launch of Dr. Phil in 2002. Her elegance, warmth, and occasional on-air presence made a significant contribution to the show, while helping craft an image of a relatable, down-to-earth couple who wanted to help others. Her presence as a symbol, however, was often accompanied by her advocacy for relationships, self-care, and women's empowerment, which won her a dedicated following of her own. As time evolved, the marriage of Phil and Robin became a public partnership beset with balancing fame and authenticity. Their support for one another became ingrained in that identity, strengthening the advice and values Dr. Phil laid before his audience. Whether appearing side by side on stage or taking a walk on the behind-the-scenes path, Robin provided that tough yet compassionate spirit to their entire branding. The two built an empire in the media, but in believable storytelling, forged their own life story of commitment that resonated with millions of viewers who looked to them as a symbol of long-lasting partnership. Robin McGraw's public role. Robin McGraw carved out her own space in the public eye, distinct from but complementary to her husband's high-profile career. As Dr. Phil gained national attention, Robin became a frequent guest on the show, sharing personal stories, offering relationship insights, and advocating for women's empowerment.
Women want what women should do, the difference between men and women.
Her calm demeanor and open discussions about topics like marriage, aging, and emotional health resonated with viewers. She published several best-selling books, including Inside My Heart and What's Age Got to Do with It, which focused on themes of self-care, confidence, and maintaining identity in marriage. Robin's approachable style helped build her reputation as more than just the host's wife. She became a public figure in her own right. One of Robin's most impactful contributions has been through her philanthropy, particularly her work addressing domestic violence. In 2013, she founded When Georgia Smiled, the Robin McGraw Revelation Foundation, named in honor of her mother. The foundation's mission centers on creating programs and tools to help women and children escape abusive environments and rebuild their lives. It launched initiatives like the Aspire News app, which disguises itself as a news app but provides emergency resources for domestic violence victims. Robin's work in this area was widely praised and aligned closely with themes often addressed on Dr. Phil, bringing both personal and professional meaning to her activism.
I believe that I am the woman, the mother, and the grandmother I am today because of my mother, Georgia.
As if her active advocacy efforts were not enough, Robin also made strides into the beauty and wellness sector with the establishment of her skincare line, Robin McGraw Revelation. The brand created a culture of self-respect and inner strength for women wishing to put emotional and physical wellness first. Products were sold with empowering messaging aimed at encouraging women to pamper themselves, guilt-free. While the brand enjoyed a fair bit of commercial success and recognition because of Robin's constant appearances on television, speculation about the product quality and exaggeration of claims started surfacing. Nevertheless, she stayed the face of her brand, using it as a vehicle to further her ideals of confidence and self-worth. During the entirety of her public career, Robin maintained a steady presence in her family's media enterprises, mingling her personal pursuits with the family's common platform. Appearing in family-oriented segments, she used her voice to highlight issues dear to her heart. Some critics charged her with exploiting the limelight afforded by her husband, but for every critic, there were supporters enamored with Robin from her charitable endeavors and independent courses of action. By now, her goodwill public image is prime with compassion, elegance, and a sincere concern to help, especially other women through difficult emotional and physical challenges. Workplace allegations on The Dr. Phil Show. In 2022, BuzzFeed News published a controversial investigative report detailing serious workplace allegations from former employees of The Dr. Phil Show. The article featured accounts from a dozen current and former staff members who described the production environment as toxic, high-pressure, and emotionally damaging. According to these individuals, the culture behind the scenes was one of fear and intimidation. They alleged that senior producers used aggressive tactics to control staff behavior, and that employees were routinely subjected to verbal abuse and professional humiliation. These claims came as a shock to many viewers, who had long regarded the show as a place for healing and constructive dialogue. In addition to the internal staff complaints, the report also cited manipulation of vulnerable guests as a core concern. Former employees claimed that some guests, often dealing with serious mental health issues, were exploited for entertainment value. There were allegations that staff encouraged emotional outbursts and withheld critical information to increase the drama on screen. In several cases, producers were accused of prioritizing ratings over the well-being of the guests. These rumors further fueled public concern, with critics arguing that the show had crossed ethical boundaries for the sake of television spectacle. While there was no official confirmation of such tactics, the accusations stirred widespread debate about the responsibility of reality-based programming. Dr. Phil McGraw and executive producer Carla Pennington categorically denied all claims. They reported the allegations in a public statement to be false and emphasized that the workplace had always maintained a high professional standard. Dr. Phil asserted that he had never observed or condoned abusive behavior and trusted his crew to behave honorably. The show went on with filming as normal without any internal changes or visible consequences ensuing from the report's submission. The denials notwithstanding, the story hung heavy over the last seasons of the show and drew dire contrasts between its stated public mission and the private culture. No confirmed accounts of lawsuits or official investigations stemmed from the allegations, but this controversy nevertheless marked Dr. Phil's legacy. Ethical discussions regarding creating emotionally charged content and the treatment of behind-the-scenes staff continued in media circles and online forums. The show's defenders stood firmly with Dr. Phil's intentions and the values of his counsel, while detractors viewed it as a microcosm of larger issues in daytime television. Wherever the truth lies, this episode added another layer of complexity to the history of one of the most famous American talk shows in existence. Controversy around Turnabout Ranch. Dr. Phil came under scrutiny for his past promotion of Turnabout Ranch, a youth behavioral treatment facility in Utah that had frequently been recommended on his show as a resource for troubled teens. The controversy began to gain national attention when former guests Danielle Bregoli, known publicly as the rapper Bhad Bhabie, and Hannah Archuleta came forward with disturbing accounts of their experiences at the facility. Both young women claimed that after appearing on Dr. Phil, they were sent to Turnabout Ranch, where they allegedly endured emotional and physical mistreatment. Their accusations sparked widespread concern about the vetting process behind the show's recommendations and the level of accountability in the teen rehabilitation industry. Danielle Bregoli went public with her story in 2021, posting a video detailing what she described as traumatizing treatment at the ranch. She alleged that teens were forced into silence, denied contact with their families, and subjected to physical restraints as punishment. Bregoli also accused the show of not following up on the welfare of guests, after they were referred to such facilities. Her claims were quickly followed by similar allegations from Hannah Archuleta, who filed a lawsuit alleging that she was assaulted by a staff member at Turnabout Ranch in 2019. Archuleta's lawsuit claimed the assault occurred shortly after her appearance on Dr. Phil, and that the program had played a direct role in her placement at the facility. Although the media took due notice of both the women's accounts, pushback against their allegations was visible. Representatives of the Turnabout Ranch stated that they had done nothing wrong and defended the staff and methods of treatment. Dr. Phil and his production team argued that the show had no control over what transpired when guests were placed in outside programs. But this has understandably brought renewed scrutiny upon Dr. Phil, with critics arguing that, having sent vulnerable minors to outside institutions, it was the responsibility of the show to ensure the safety and ethical treatment of these minors. In light of the public backlash, Dr. Phil quietly withdrew from the ranch during these visits. Although the program had previously touted the ranch as a rehabilitation choice for troubled teens, over the subsequent year, the program would not name the ranch on air as it once had. This larger controversy raised questions about the ethics of exploiting real people, particularly minors, for emotionally charged television programming. While the lawsuits are still pending and outcomes unclear, the backlash had one clear outcome. It added pressure to Dr. Phil's brand and caused a reconsideration of the show's referral practices. The controversy may have put his past under fire, but what followed next revealed just how sharply his public voice was about to change. Launch of Merit Street Media. In 2024, Dr. Phil took a bold new step in his media career by launching his own television network, Merit Street Media. This marked his move from traditional daytime talk television into a space he described as being focused on real conversations without the filter. The creation of the network came after the conclusion of his long-running syndicated show, and it was framed as an opportunity to expand the types of discussions he wanted to have, many of which leaned more overtly into social and political territory. Merit Street Media quickly gained attention for its emphasis on cultural debates and hot-button issues, diverging sharply from the psychological and personal guidance topics that had defined Dr. Phil's earlier image. At the center of this new platform was Dr. Phil Primetime, a nightly program that carried a noticeably different tone from his previous show. Rather than focusing primarily on individual counseling or family conflict resolution, Dr. Phil Primetime featured panels, interviews, and commentary on national issues such as free speech, education policy, and public safety. Dr. Phil frequently voiced support for parental rights in schools and tougher crime enforcement, themes that resonated with conservative audiences. His stance on these topics, especially when compared to his relatively apolitical public image of the past, was interpreted by many as a deliberate repositioning to appeal to a more right-leaning demographic. Dr. Phil's guests had also begun to shift in tone, as had topic selection. The new forum usually had enemies of cancel culture and ideological overreach on it, while showing concern for others. Government transparency, media bias, and the argument that legitimate news has misled Americans were also topics he addressed. This version of Dr. Phil was viewed by his fans as more blunt and willing to confront tough truths. The opposition, however, argued that he had turned his back on credibility and empathy. Some believed that the network was built for political purposes, whereas Dr. Phil has never commented on the issue. While Dr. Phil argued that his political evolution has come from an increased concern for the direction of society, Merit Street Media certainly signifies a change in his public identity. In the past, Dr. Phil advised people on their personal troubles. Now, he has taken on the far broader role of a cultural commentator with the intent of influencing public discourse. Whether this new route will enhance his public presence or alienate portions of his old audience remains to be seen. But certainly his change of tone will create a new way for him to identify himself in the media landscape. Participation in 2025 ICA Raid. In January 2025, Dr. Phil made headlines for his unexpected participation in an Immigration and Customs Enforcement (IC) raid in Chicago. Accompanying former IC Director Tom Homan, Dr. Phil was filmed during the operation, which targeted undocumented immigrants with prior criminal records. Footage surfaced online showing Dr. Phil actively engaging with detainees, including moments where he questioned one individual about their immigration status and criminal history. The video quickly went viral.
Your mother's a citizen?
Yes.
But you're not?
And sparked a firestorm of reactions across social media and news outlets. For many, it was a surprising and controversial move for someone who had previously been known for his daytime television focus on personal healing and family issues. Critics argued that Dr. Phil's presence at the raid was not only inappropriate, but also politically motivated. The optics of a television personality participating in a federal law enforcement operation raised serious ethical questions, especially given the sensitive nature of immigration enforcement. Detractors accused him of using the moment for publicity and aligning himself with hardline immigration policies. Some called the move a stunt meant to boost the visibility of his newly launched conservative media network, Merit Street Media. Rumors even circulated that the event had been partially orchestrated for an upcoming episode of Dr. Phil Primetime, though no official confirmation of that claim was made. Dr. Phil defended his participation by stating that his intention was purely journalistic. He said he wanted to understand the process firsthand and gain insight into how ICE operations were carried out, especially in communities where immigration enforcement is a contentious issue. According to his team, the experience was part of a broader initiative to explore topics often ignored or misrepresented in mainstream media. He argued that discussing immigration from a factual, law enforcement-based perspective was necessary to move the public discourse forward. While some appreciated his attempt to dive deeper into national issues, others felt the method lacked sensitivity and context. The incident marked yet another shift in Dr. Phil's evolving public persona. Once seen as a neutral figure offering guidance and support, he has increasingly positioned himself within more polarizing national conversations. The ICE raid appearance reinforced his move toward politically charged topics, further aligning him with conservative media circles. Whether viewed as an act of bold journalism or an inappropriate display of showmanship, the raid solidified Dr. Phil's willingness to insert himself into controversial debates and to accept the consequences that come with them. End of the Dr. Phil Show. In 2023, after 21 seasons on the air, Dr. Phil came to an end, closing a major chapter in daytime television history. The show, which began in 2002 as a spin-off from Dr. Phil's frequent appearances on The Oprah Winfrey Show, had become a staple in households across America. Known for its blend of psychological insight, tough love, and emotionally charged interviews, Dr. Phil maintained a loyal following throughout its run. Dr. Phil McGraw announced that he was stepping away from the format, explaining that he wanted to explore new projects that aligned more closely with his evolving interests and the shifting media landscape. As the final season aired, Dr. Phil emphasized that the decision to end the show was not abrupt or forced. According to official statements, the conclusion of Dr. Phil was a mutual decision between McGraw and CBS, who both agreed the time was right to wrap the series. He expressed gratitude to the network and his fans for 2 decades of support. Rather than retiring, Dr. Phil made it clear that his goal was to pivot.
We are following breaking news here on Dr. Phil's Merit TV. I'm Chris Gutierrez.
And I'm Joe Gum. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Sunday.
Into new formats and platforms, particularly with the launch of his new venture, Merit Street Media. He stated that his passion for discussing real-world issues and offering guidance was stronger than ever, but he was ready to do so in a different way. The rumors started out of nowhere when the series ended, but it was allegedly clear that there were reasons hidden for that. Some speculated that earlier allegations of a toxic workplace behind-the-scenes disputes would have led to this development, while a few others began scaring stories that the show was coming to an end because of some personal issues existing between Dr. Phil and his spouse, Robin McGraw. In reality, quite seriously, outside of a deep, toxic work environment, which should be termed as undisputed, no public evidence was laid on any scandal ending the show. Even, the couple was still seen out together in the announcement period, and nothing in the official reports claimed fallout from CBS. The rumors remain just social media speculation, not substantiated claims. This has ended the Dr. Phil Show, which had been an integral part of the American television landscape for well over 2 decades, offering therapy-style advice with the latest headline news for consumption, has left an enormous void in the daytime talk show lineup of the continent. But this was not for Dr. Phil. A parting end was not the end. He opened his mouth to tell not just his existing audience that there would be other platforms and wider audiences to reach his voice and, of course, influence in the future, but on different terms. Current status of Dr. Phil. As of 2025, Dr. Phil and Robin McGraw remain publicly married, with no formal announcement of separation or divorce. Their relationship, which spans nearly 5 decades, has been under public scrutiny for years, especially due to Dr. Phil's high-profile career and Robin's visible role alongside him. While they have become more private in recent years, particularly following the end of Dr. Phil, there has been no official indication of marital trouble. Despite stepping back from frequent joint appearances, their enduring bond remains part of their public narrative, especially in interviews and occasional shared statements about family or charitable endeavors. Nevertheless, rumors of a split have continued to circulate on social media and tabloid sites. Speculation ranged from claims of emotional distance to stories of professional disagreements behind the scenes. Some suggested that Robin's reduced presence on Dr. Phil's newer ventures, such as his Merritt Street Media Network, hinted at tension between the two. Others claimed the shift in Dr. Phil's public persona, from therapeutic daytime host to more politically outspoken media figure, created personal strain. These rumors, however, have not been addressed directly by the couple and appear to be based more on conjecture than confirmed information. Robin McGraw has been working towards an initiative of her own, primarily through the foundation When Georgia Smiled, as well as her wellness brand. Dr. Phil has indulged in his own media projects, such as Dr. Phil Primetime. Their career paths have strayed slightly, but both are public figures who often refer to family in their lives. They have been spotted on a few occasions gracing the list of public events, especially those involving their children or charitable causes. When they do share a stage, they appear quite cordial and cooperative, which lends credence to the picture of longtime partners, even if less visible intertwined than in previous years. In the age of celebrity couples who have turned their marriages into reality shows, doing much of everything with cameras rolling, Dr. Phil and Robin have gotten more private with their marriage, and fans have been left wondering, but respectfully. While their dynamics may have changed over time, particularly with changing professional priorities, there exists no tangible evidence that suggests the dissolving of their bond. Their marriage may well not be the most prominent part of their media appearances, but it seems to be a topic of it. Their decision, whether by choice or circumstance, to keep much of their personal lives out of the limelight has also helped them remain stable over decades of fame, public scrutiny, and professional transformation. While their relationship has grown more private, what they're building individually may leave an even bigger mark than their years in the spotlight together. Public legacy and future plans. Dr. Phil McGraw continues to hold a prominent place in American media, even after stepping away from his long-running daytime talk show. Rather than retreating from the public eye, he has leaned into a more independent and direct approach to content creation. With the launch of his network, Merritt Street Media, and his new show, Dr. Phil Primetime, he's shifted focus from personal intervention stories to broader social and political issues. His influence remains significant, but his brand has evolved. No longer just a trusted television therapist, he's now a more vocal cultural commentator. This transition marks a new era in his career, one driven more by his own editorial direction than by network standards. Robin McGraw, meanwhile, has continued her advocacy work with unwavering focus. Through her foundation, When Georgia Smiled, she remains committed to helping survivors of domestic violence and raising awareness about emotional abuse and trauma. Her initiatives, including educational tools and safety apps, have positioned her as a respected voice in women's empowerment spaces. While her visibility has decreased compared to the height of the Dr. Phil show, Robin has cultivated a quieter but meaningful public presence. Her work often unfolds behind the scenes, and she seems more focused on impact than media attention. Some rumors have suggested that she may eventually relaunch her wellness brand or author another book, though nothing has been formally announced. Together, Dr. Phil and Robin are no longer set joint roles. They chose to go their divergent ways. This transition has enabled both to espouse their distinct values and priorities, no longer dependent on a common media platform. They still show pride in each other's accomplishments, but their current focus represents two strands of their legacies. Dr. Phil with media and public discourse, Robin with philanthropy and advocacy. That they are able to stay alive in public interest while pursuing their separate paths is proof of the foundation they built together through years of partnership and public trust. For decades, they have shaped television and the conversation around mental health. For over 2 decades, they were a powerful influence on the way mainstream culture discussed topics like addiction, trauma, family dynamics, and personal development. Be it through TV interventions, public speaking, or written works, they made mental health issues more understandable to millions. Their legacy will not only remain in terms of ratings or headlines, but also in the lives of countless numbers that were affected by their work, both as a couple and as individuals who carved separate paths in a fast-changing cultural landscape. There are future projects hinted by both Dr. Phil and Robin McGraw that might interest the publicly with their pioneering moves. Dr. Phil wants to produce documentaries and long-form interviews on social issues that are controversial, so he could have what he calls raw, necessary conversation in a way that goes beyond mainstream television. Meanwhile, Robin is reportedly looking into nonprofit collaborations to expand the impact of her foundation at the legislative level, specifically regarding domestic abuse policy reform. Neither has committed to mainstream television again, but, of course, their plans involve an upcoming transition from entertainment toward influence, dissemination, through his platform to inform and shape the national dialogue in more strategic and enduring ways. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as eye-opening as we did, don't forget to like, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines. And don't go anywhere. Click the next video on your screen to uncover another untold chapter in celebrity history.